before you as an admittedly non-traditional candidate. But I think it just might do some good to send a mayor to Washington when we need Washington to look more like our best-run cities and towns instead of the other way around. And I would argue we need a new generation of leadership to step up at the highest levels in our country. We are not going to win by going on the president's show. I know it's massively entertaining. I don't know what kind of show to call it. Is it a game show? Is it a reality show? It's a horror show. So we're not going to go on his show, because if you're on the show, you're already losing. What are we going to do? We're going to change the channel. Running for office is an act of hope that we can make a difference. Do you have hope that we can make a difference? Are you ready to stand with me and change the channel? Then we will turn states blue from Indiana to South Carolina, on to the White House and beyond, and I will be with you every step of the way. Thank you, South Carolina. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that was Mayor Pete Buttigieg, mayor of South Bend, Indiana, speaking. I want to get the panel's reaction. I want to go to Jason on this first, because you've been really digging into the story about Mayor Pete's campaign. React to the speech if you like, but explain also why he was not at the fish fry yesterday.
So there was a shooting of an unarmed man in South Bend, Indiana. The candidate, Pete Buttigieg, that was not a Freudian slip from me, trust me. But Mayor Pete decided he's pretty much going to cancel his campaign for 7 days, go back and speak to the community. There's been mixed reactions to it. The family is still not happy. They don't think that he's been satisfactory. He did engage in sort of a vigil. He did have an accountability speech to the police department.
Mind you, an encounter with protesters.
Yeah, he had an encounter with protesters as well, where people said, look, we're not happy with you. He said to a group of black people, I'm not trying to get your vote. That didn't go over particularly well. But I think the mayor at this particular point, you saw it in his speech, he's trying to clean up for the mistakes that he's made this week. It's going to take time. This is his second or third major police issue. If he can't handle this, rhetorically and policy-wise, I don't see how he can be successful in this state.
And you know, Gilda Cobb-Hunter, he's not somebody who is polling that well in South Carolina. He's going up and down the polls. I think the Courier, there was a local newspaper poll that had him a little higher, but it also had a lower percentage of African Americans in the poll. So a lot of people are wondering about that poll. How is he doing here?
He needs to do better. There's much work to do as far as the black community is concerned. Mainly it has not so much to do with the fact that he's openly gay as much as he's just not done the work to get his name out and his message. I'll give him credit for the efforts he has made, have been in small rural pockets of South Carolina, which will be tough. But I liked his speech. It's the right message for South Carolina with a majority black Democratic voting. So I thought he did good. And it also showed he's consistent in his message. He has talked about race and African Americans and white audiences. He did the same thing here.
South Carolina native Jimmy Williams. So you talked earlier about the potential for a white candidate to get through because of the split. The media has obviously, Pete Buttigieg he's caused a firestorm with the media.
Beyond enamored.
The media's very enamored of him. Can that popularity, you know, he's on all the late night shows. He's getting a huge national profile. He's only 37 years old. He's a young guy. So does that almost a celebrity sort of candidacy help him here?
Sure, but it's not going to get him what he needs, which is votes. It'll get him some white votes. But here's the deal. First of all, if the first rule of politics is if you don't ask, they're not going to vote for you. The second rule of politics is if someone can relate to you in a personal way, then you've got their vote. I'm going to give his campaign some unsolicited advice on live TV. You want black votes? He needs to take his happy butt into every black church in South Carolina he could possibly get into, talk about his faith, talk about his Christianity, talk about his how he feels the world is working for him, working for others, not working for others, not working for him. Make those connections. He will get votes.
You know, that's
he will get
interesting
votes.
Because, you know, Pete Buttigieg does put forward his Christianity as a huge selling point in his campaign, and a kind of sort of Midwestern, Methodist type Christianity I'm familiar with growing up with.
Episcopalian.
The Episcopalian, you know, very similar, very similar. But in this state, that church orientation would be very helpful in a way.
It would be, we're talking Southern Baptist down here.
It's Southern Baptist.
We're talking gospel down here. He's talking organs. Okay? So it's a different kind of situation. And again, functionally, his inability, I keep going back to this, his inability to handle the situation that he's got right now with these shootings and these police and issues like that. And also, he doesn't talk organically to people. If you look at the video when he's talking to the protesters, they say, you know what he sounds like? We were talking about he sounds older. He sounds like the stuffy old dean from some 80s teen movie, right? He goes, well, you kids sit down and listen. I'm going to handle this. Right. He needs to sound more like a regular person.
It's interesting that he's both very young and seems like a sort of older, like, you know what I mean? He sounds like an older
Close
politician.
your eyes, you're hearing your father.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Not mine, but yeah.
Not mine either.
Not one. Mine is from the Congo. All right.
The other thing, real quickly, on the religion and how it might play in the South, that the reverse side of that is the homophobia that most Southern Baptists and black folk have. So you got to be careful as far as the religion angle.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt him to go in and ask.
You have to ask. We're going to have all my panel come back. We're going to take a quick break. More AM Joy live from Columbia, South Carolina.